We knew something was wrong with Marion.
There was just something I couldn't pinpoint. Haley really couldn't keep up with the kids.
The twins were doing their ABCs and running around the house. And then they were beginning to fall down and they were losing their speech.
What is it? I was going out of my mind.
We screamed, we yelled. It was the most unimaginable thing.
I felt like I couldn't breathe. My heart fell through the floor.
I just got this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach.
But the end of the story isn't yet written.
Hello, and welcome to Something's Killing Me. I'm B.D. Wong. There are roughly 7,000 diseases that the National Institutes of Health designate as rare, and only 500 are treatable. What happens if your child is one of the unlucky ones? What would you do? Tonight, we'll meet families faced with that devastating reality in a fight for their children's lives. Can they beat the odds?
You're so strong.
It's the happiest moment of your life, you know, having your kids.
The hopes and the dreams that you have for your children, and you hold them, and they're beautiful, and they're healthy.
And then slowly start to see things that are just a little bit off.
We knew it was a girl. We got her room ready and we got the clothes and everybody was so excited.
We were happy we had a boy and a girl, so yeah, she's a little cutie and bundle of joy and completed the family.
Haley was progressing perfectly. She would crawl, she would walk, she would talk. She always liked to sing. There you go, good job. Yeah! We didn't see anything that's out of the ordinary. Here comes Haley.
She did preschool, she did kindergarten, but first grade-ish is when she really couldn't keep up with the kids. She was in Daisies before the Brownies and Girl Scouts, and we'd have a little ceremony, and all the girls were running across this little thing in the park, and I had to hold Haley's hand.
Everybody would do arts and crafts, and then you can see that, Haley's were not cut right, or it was scribbling, it wasn't writing.
There was just something I couldn't pinpoint.
Well, this is one of my favorite pictures. I love that one. It's so cute.
It was a very exciting time to find out we were pregnant.
And the ultrasound technician said out loud, do twins run in your family? And lo and behold, we had Addie and Cassie. I couldn't have been happier about being a dad, number one, but having twins is just fantastic. And the fact that they're so cute doesn't hurt either.
Twinkle little star.
And they were healthy, they were perfect.
We're doing their ABCs and singing nursery rhymes and running around the house, and everything was hunky-dory.
They were walking, running, talking. And then we started seeing these subtle changes over time.
I was noticing that Cassie was having real trouble seeing things kind of on the floor when she was walking, and she was kind of getting trippy.
Their walking and their balance started to show signs of trouble. And then fairly quickly, we started seeing they would pause and not be able to put a sentence together as quickly.
The school was having concerns about Haley. And so they suggested that they would do an assessment for her. And their conclusion was that Haley had learning disability and also suggested that she might also have an ADHD.
Then she went to a special school, and everything seemed well.
And then the school called Gail and said that Haley fell.
She had a seizure on the playground. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Something's wrong with her.
Addie and Cassie, we took them in for what we thought was a severe cold, and their pediatrician discovered that they had big spleens. The most logical explanation was a virus, like a mononucleosis.
I remember them looking at some sort of vein that goes like into the spleen. They wanted to do an ultrasound on that to see if there was some sort of blockage that was causing it. They sent us over to immunology. They thought, maybe there's something going on there.
You're looking at possible cancers and leukemias, and all of those things were ruled out.
And then everything just started turning out negative, negative, negative. Couldn't find anything. What is it? And we needed to get answers.
Haley was having problems with swallowing, and she was choking on things a lot. She was not talking a lot.
Hi, Haley, I got you. She was having seizures. We tried a lot of different medications, and none of them would work.
We never had them under control. A few different hospitals and a few different doctors.
They operated on her, and they took the tissue from where the seizures were coming from.
She all of a sudden started taking a turn for the worse. She was bleeding on the brain. So that was like 3 surgeries, within, probably less than a week-ish.
It did not help. In fact, she still has seizures.
And they didn't know what was going on.
Nobody knew.
The twins were beginning to fall down. They were beginning to have various forms of seizures.
And I was starting to notice that they were having problems with their eye movements, staring all the way around you, and they're not looking at you. And I felt like we were losing them.
I was called by the Hempel's pediatrician. I've been hearing about all of these studies coming back with no answer. Typically, the way we usually work when we're doing investigation is we start with the most common, and once all that's ruled out, then we start looking for the rare problems. Both of them had enlarged spleens, and it's interesting that these identical twins had identically enlarged spleens. This strongly suggested that this was a genetic disease. Knowing about the developmental delay and the enlarged spleens, this is when we start looking at all of the potential rare diseases where these two overlap.
And that started us on a year-plus long odyssey of diagnosis.
Finally, after this big, long search, you found out what the disease is, and here's the prognosis.
You hear the answer, but you want to know what it is.
You can't even fathom this in your mind.
Haley Kajayan was a healthy, active girl. Then she started falling behind in school and having multiple seizures. Identical twins Addie and Cassie Hempel were losing their ability to walk and talk and had enlarged spleens. Doctors suspected they were suffering from a rare genetic disease, but which one?
Haley fell. They think that it was a seizure.
That was a rough time. Then they did the brain surgery. I thought we were on the road to the, right thing, but she's still having the seizures.
The twins were starting to become developmentally delayed. At that point, I know something is going on with their brains because they weren't developmentally delayed, 6 months prior.
It was really frustrating because, it's difficult when you know something's wrong and then you can't really get an answer.
There's something going on with my child, and I don't know what it is. It's a real mystery initially that you have to try and start to solve.
The symptoms: enlarged spleen, multiple seizures, and developmental issues. Doctors thought the girls may have a metabolic storage disease.
I never knew any of this stuff. This was all new to me.
Metabolic storage diseases are rare diseases that are frequently associated with neurologic signs or symptoms, and also enlarged livers and spleens.
You have substances that are accumulating in certain parts of the body that shouldn't be there. That can cause problems.
And then from then on, it was trying to figure out which one.
We did arrange for them to be seen by a geneticist and to have testing done. Some of it involved a skin biopsy.
Unfortunately, that test is a several-week-long waiting time. It was a very painful period of time.
Oh, I was going out of my mind. We need to now get to the bottom of this.
We're back at the doctor's office. We're gonna get the results, we're gonna know.
You hear the answer, but you want to know what it is so that you can see where we go next.
Finally, after this big, long search, you found out what the disease is.
It wasn't good.
They were diagnosed with Niemann-Pick C. It was a very difficult moment. This is a disease that most physicians never see and most people never hear about. It's very rare.
One of the physicians was there for 40 years and said, I've just never experienced this in my whole career. I just can't, I don't even know what to say to you.
When I heard the term Niemann-Pick, I started doing some research, and what you read was kind of, devastating.
It's got a nickname that says it all: childhood Alzheimer's.
Parents were told really tough things. They were told that their child had an Alzheimer's-like disease, even though they weren't even but a few years old. And they were told their child was going to die young. And it's not going to be pleasant, the way the disease unfolds.
Children lose the ability to walk and to talk and to eat.
Memory can be affected. Your hearing often is affected. All those things that allow you to have some sort of way of interpreting the world. How you see it, how you hear it, how you touch it, feel it, taste it.
There was no treatment. There is nothing that can be done other than a lot of supportive care and a lot of love.
Your child has this disease, and it's going to relentlessly progress and get worse, and then, they're going to die. That's like the worst imaginable thing you can have to tell a family.
I just completely broke down. You can't even fathom this in your mind.
It's a gut punch. I asked the question, of course, what are we really looking at here? And his answer was early teens at the most, best case.
The girls were just shy of their 4th birthday. So if we wanted to make a difference for these girls, it needed to be soon.
We decided pretty quickly, Hugh and I, we need to take action. We're not going to wait.
They called me and they said, we want to look for experimental treatments. Are you with us or not?
It was going to work. No doubt in their mind. They just had to figure out how to do it.
After a long and painful medical journey, the parents of Addie and Cassie Hempel and Haley Kujayan finally discovered what was affecting their children. A rare genetic disease called Niemann-Pick type C, sometimes known as childhood Alzheimer's.
It's an ultra-rare disease, meaning that it happens in fewer than 1 in 50,000 people.
They're the diseases that people really don't pay much attention to unless you happen to have it or someone you love does. Then it's your whole life. It goes from being a rare disease to the only thing you ever think about.
It was very scary. You start trying to learn as much as you can.
I just remember the first 2 weeks not sleeping and just on the internet, just trying to understand everything I could about this disease.
That gave us a big leg up in terms of what we were up against.
The Hempels learned of the Ara Parsegian Medical Research Foundation, named after the legendary Notre Dame football coach, which was founded in 1994.
When we started the foundation, it was not a known disease. There was very little interest in the science of it.
This is a foundation that has changed, the history of this disease. And really, they formed the base for everything we do now.
Well, one of the first things we did was we isolated the gene.
So everyone has the Niemann-Pick genes. You get 2 genes. You get one from your mother and one from your father. And in my situation and Hugh's situation, we have 1 functional gene and 1 broken gene. And so when we conceived Addie and Cassie, they received the 2 broken genes.
The NPC gene is a transport gene. It carries things in and out of a cell, kind of like a train. They've discovered that if you have a defective gene, cholesterol gets trapped in the cells and can't get out.
The problem in NPC is not eating too much cholesterol or taking in too much cholesterol. It's that the cholesterol that's in your body isn't getting processed normally.
It's painful to listen to, but the cholesterol slowly builds up in the brain. The brain cells die.
Numerous studies of Alzheimer's have shown abnormally high cholesterol levels in the brain, so cholesterol a culprit in both diseases.
Where you see the real decline is in the neurological system. Children lose their ability to walk, to talk. Seizures are common, and most children die before adulthood. It's the most unbelievable, devastating problem a parent can ever face. 3 of my 4 children were diagnosed with Niemann-Pick type C in 1994. We screamed, we yelled, and I am not embarrassed to say that I cursed God.
Mommy, you can't see me?
I can see you very close.
It was the most unimaginable thing to think that we're going to lose these 3 beautiful, gorgeous, happy, caring children. My son Michael was my cowboy. He loved horses, he loved cowboy boots, and he was the funniest man-child ever to exist. God, I love that child. Marcia was our wheelchair ballerina, who also had a black belt in karate. And our daughter, Krista, she loved purple with a passion. Purple, which is the color of hope. I have many, many wonderful moments of my children. They had a smile for everyone. They gave us joy through their laughter. They also taught us how precious life is.
Families would have said, okay, we've done our part, we've lost our kids, and we're out. They just continued. The Parsegians have raised $50 million for this research.
As scientists, we knew that we had a lot of work to do. We had hope, but we knew that there was a long road ahead of us in order to get therapies that could be effective.
The Parsegian Foundation funded researchers from across the country in search of answers. Then, in 2007, a young scientist named Dr. Benny Liu, under the mentorship of Dr. John Dici, offered the families a glimpse of hope. It came in the form of a sugar compound called cyclodextrin. When given to lab mice that have NPC, it lowered their cholesterol and increased their lifespan.
We presented our data at the meeting, and even when we presented it, people didn't really believe it.
Cyclodextrin, it sounds like a very complex compound, but it's really not. It's a starch or a sugar derived from a potato.
Millions of people are exposed to cyclodextrin every single day in all kinds of products, and you'd never even know it.
There's a air freshener called Febreze. And if you look at one of the main ingredients of Febreze is cyclodextrin.
It's this molecule that locks the odors and moves them.
What I also found was that it can actually pull cholesterol out of cells. This idea that cyclodextrin was almost going to act like a broom and sort of sweep out the excess cholesterol of the body. That was a big step forward.
Many people in labs for decades have used cyclodextrins, but never by itself for treatment purposes.
It was discovered by a lucky accident.
We were funding a lady out in California, and she was showing success in mice with this other drug.
When she gave Niemann-Pick C mice a steroid compound, the lifespan of these Niemann-Pick mice doubled.
My thought was, well, let me recreate their experiment in my lab.
And it was only when Benny Liu ran the experiment using the cyclodextrin as a placebo that they realized
that it was actually the cyclodextrin that was being effective and not this other drug.
You know, I thought I messed up my experiments. Let me scrap everything and let me start from scratch. And we did the same experiments again. And when we did those, we got the same results. That was kind of the aha moment. This is a big breakthrough. that the cyclodextrin compound is actually a potential treatment. It was serendipitous, mysterious, and ultimately something that provided some optimism.
And the minute we found out about it,
I called him.
The phone in the lab rang, and on the other end was a mom. And basically what she said was, I want to give this to my kids. I thought, you know, this is crazy. We don't even know how it's doing what it does. And this mom wants to give this to her kids.
This is a no-brainer. I mean, how can you not try this when they tell you your kids are gonna die?
I didn't have complete faith yet that this drug would work.
Do you drink it? Do you inject it?
There's gotta be a way to make this work.
Welcome back to Something's Killing Me. What would you do if your child was diagnosed with a rare, fatal disease with no known treatment? The Hempel and Kujayan families were given that devastating news when their children tested positive for Niemann-Pick type C, a disease known to some as childhood Alzheimer's. Then, in 2007, scientists researching the disease stumbled upon a sugar compound called cyclodextrin. For both families, a glimmer of hope. Could it help their children? They were in a race to find out.
You're in a sprint, not a marathon. We could see our kids like on a weekly basis, like declining.
we found out about the cyclodextrin, and to have effectively a non-toxic starch sugar as a potential drug is pure luck and fantastic.
I think you just figure you've got to try something. You can't just sit here and wait.
She was not going to wait around for science to proceed at its leisurely pace.
The first thing Chris did is just ordered cyclodextrin. Ironically, it was available online.
So how much does it cost? Here's my credit card. Send it to me.
This box shows up at her house. We open it up, and it looks like powdered sugar. And we looked at each other and we said, well, what do we do now?
We just put it in the girls' sippy cups, kind of, I mean, looking back on it, it's almost laughable that we did that. You know, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time.
But as we started to do more research, it became clear that it doesn't really pass your gut very well.
This drug wasn't really going to work by just ingesting it. So here comes the complicated part.
You need to get it into the bloodstream, or you need to get it into the brain. So then we started figuring, okay, how do you do that?
The Hempels contacted the Food and Drug Administration for permission to inject cyclodextrin directly into the twins' bloodstreams. The FDA required they first gather specific data, including evidence that injecting the compound is safe in humans.
In the absence of toxicology or safety data, we would have to go create it ourselves.
That would take us years and tens of millions of dollars that we don't have.
Chris actually quickly discovered that the data did exist because cyclodextrin was already being used in another drug, which is part of the Johnson & Johnson family.
We contacted them because there's a drug that they make in which there's a very high concentration of cyclodextrin. Chris Hempel pleaded her story.
We need to get this data. I called their public relations department. There's got to be somebody there that can help us.
That was Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, at the crack of dawn, we got a phone call from one of the vice presidents at J&J, and they asked us, you know, what can we do to help?
The Hempels hired a biochemist, and we calculated how much drug that we would need to give. Nobody really knew what dose you needed to be at that could be effective.
We had a pharmacist that was taking the powder, and they had to put it through filters because they had to turn this into a sterile solution to put in the body. It took 6 hours each time to make it.
The formulation of the drug was the first step, and the second part was dose and frequency, how much to give them and over what period of time.
I saw them, these fighters, knowing that they were up against incredible odds.
We received a lot of resistance, and we were told by Many of the researchers that had been in this community for so long, no, we need to do more testing. And so we had to overcome that and just forge our own path.
These things take time. The Hempels didn't feel they had time.
What would you do? What would you do if this were your child?
It took us 1.5 years to get, all of that put together. Unfortunately, during that 1.5 year period of time, the girls were, the degeneration was really starting to take hold.
The Hempels submitted their findings to the FDA. In March 2009, the FDA granted the Hempels' request. The twins would be the first in the United States to get cyclodextrin through IV.
It's like catching lightning in a bottle, and we just got very lucky.
The girls came to the hospital, got it an IV placed, or the very first time we did it actually over 4 days, continuous infusion. I was trying to temper the enthusiasm and the hope because I just didn't want people to feel crushed if we just didn't see them suddenly change. We saw with the first infusions, the girls appeared more alert, brighter, and more focused.
They're walking, more stable. They're making more eye contact. To us, it's a big improvement.
The parents noticed improvement right away once they started giving the cyclodextrin, which was really exciting.
Good job!
It was phenomenal. We knew we were on the right path.
We've always said today's the day that our kids get a little sweeter because we're putting sugar in them.
We pressed ahead. Every week, the girls came to the hospital and had the intravenous infusions. They went for 8 hours. We saw no problems. We never had any bad side effects, and they continued on with this brightness. We were interested in giving the drug into the spinal fluid to see if we got the drug closer to the neurons, the cells in the brain, if that actually would have a major effect on the progression of their neurologic symptoms. So we went back to the FDA.
18 months later, they got approval to inject cyclodextrin directly into the spine. The twins would be the first in the world to get that treatment. It was major news in the Bay Area.
At Children's Hospital Oakland, twin girls are to be the first humans in history to be treated with an experimental compound. Doctors say it's the only chance to survive a sort of childhood Alzheimer's.
So I'm a little nervous.
I'm not nervous. Hopeful.
I think it's just kind of as we're doing this, we're stumbling on other things.
What Dr. Hastings is about to do has never been done in human beings before. Cassie's now getting the injection of cyclodextrin directly into her spinal fluid. Not into the blood, but directly into the spinal fluid, where it may have more of an impact.
We gave the drug and their hearing improved dramatically, and their hearing has stayed relatively stable. They weren't like looking at us in our eyes, and so that just seemed to come back where we could make that connection.
For us, it's pretty profound.
There's a lot of different theories on, how it could be working. But when you're a parent, you don't care. You just know it's working, and that's all you really care about.
This is an intervention that helps prevent the disease as long as you constantly get the drug. So it's not a cure.
Despite the great work that's being done at the end, still could be years before kids have an alternative, and years for these kids is life or death.
I'm like, you gotta help me. This is what's happening. I gotta get it as soon as possible.
There were families that were treating their kids with good results, but we didn't know if that would work for Haley or not.
A simple sugar called cyclodextrin was making headlines as a possible treatment for an untreatable rare and degenerative disease, Niemann-Pick C. While it was not approved by the FDA for widespread use, the compound offered the first sign of hope for parents, like the Kujayans and their daughter, Haley. But would it work?
Run, Haley, run! You were born with NPC. There's damage every day. There's damage every day.
With cyclodextrin, there's hope. This is going to help your child.
Cyclodextrin, it emerged on researchers' radar screens. This could be what's doing the good work of slowing this disease. And off they went to further experiments in mice and in cats. And there's some really dramatic video of the cats from a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania.
This video shows cats with the feline version of Niemann-Pick type C. The cats on the left are shaking and staggering. The cat on the right has been treated with cyclodextrin.
It's really, truly night and day. It made sense, it provided hope, and I think it was doing something that nothing else could do for them at that time.
How, as a family, could you look at those videos and not think, I want my child receiving this drug?
The Kujayans wanted Haley to get cyclodextrin. Her walking, speech, and ability to swallow were quickly deteriorating. They turned to pediatric neurologist Dr. Elizabeth Berry Kravis for help.
That was a huge step because I was scared. I didn't know what would happen.
I thought, if I don't do this, I'm not going to be able to sleep with myself because I know they're not going to be able to get treatment anywhere else in this city. So we decided to do it.
To get Haley the cyclodextrin treatment, the Kujayans had to ask the FDA to give it to them through a plan called expanded access, or compassionate use.
The expanded access is a way to make drugs that have potential to help patients when there's nothing else that's available.
We're not approving this for everyone, but you may use this in these circumstances.
I remember we had to apply for compassionate use, and that's when the government was shut down. Well, I'm on the phone with our congressman. I'm like, you gotta help me. This is what's happening. I gotta get it as soon as possible. It was 2 days before Christmas, and we got the drug, and Haley got her treatment. And so that was the best Christmas present ever.
Within 6 months, she improved. You are doing awesome, Haley.
Haley's still walking, and if she didn't get the drug, Haley would have been in a wheelchair.
One of the things we saw improve a great deal was that Haley was able to eat and swallow without all the choking.
Somebody likes food.
She's talking and singing and laughing.
Alex is a dork.
We would expect that by now, she might not be communicating at all.
We were happy with what we were seeing.
I've spent my entire life seeing patients where I tell them they have this disease and we can't reverse it. To see patients doing even a little bit better for a long time and to see, a little bit of reversal is really huge. It's enormous.
That began in 2013. And by 2015, the results were good enough that NIH was able to license cyclodextrin out to this Maryland-based company, then called Vitesse, to take it forward into a later stage clinical trial.
And Dr. Berry Kravis opened the program she set up for Haley to give the cyclodextrin-based drug VTS-270 to others in need.
One thing has led to another, and patients need treatment, so we've continued to build the protocol.
The medication is giving us a semblance of hope. That's pretty much what it is. It's not a cure, but it is what it is, and you do the best you can.
Today will be Jake's fourth treatment. They'll perform the spinal tap and give him the medicine.
We have a lot of hope for this drug, and it's what helps me get out of bed every day. He's just set on growing up big and racing and riding motorcycles and playing baseball, and that's all he worries about. And I like it that way.
We're gonna do your arm testing again, just for a minute, okay? Here, touch my finger. Touch your nose. Finger, nose.
Great. There are more and more adults being diagnosed.
Good.
John is 33, and he is an adult onset of the disease. In his early 20s, he started to develop a hand tremor, and I just thought it was like caffeine jitters because he drank a lot of coffee. When you're diagnosed with this disease, it's just devastating. This formula has been developed now that is promising to delay the progression considerably and provide time. We all pray I'm sorry, for a cure.
There is hope for families out there now.
We feel like Marion and the kids of this generation could beat the unbeatable and not just survive, but live healthy lives.
The rare and unthinkable genetic disease Niemann-Pick type C was once considered untreatable. Today, due to years of research and an incredible breakthrough, this simple sugar is giving children with this Alzheimer's-like disease and their families new hope.
When you meet a new family, their whole life has been shattered. The breath has been taken out of them.
Marion is our younger daughter. We have a 5-year-old Emily, so she's the little sister. She had the most beautiful smile that lights up the room and playful and happy. That's how she was when she came into our lives. When she was 19 months, she couldn't walk. She was really tired. She wasn't gaining weight. She wasn't growing very well anymore. Actually, on World Rare Disease Day last year, we got the call with the diagnosis that it was NPC. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And my friend said to me, "You're not starting from the beginning. You're building on what other people have built." The mountain got a little bit smaller because you're not alone. Yeah.
We are firm believers in early treatment. The disease really hasn't taken hold yet, and we have probably a bigger chance of reversing or stalling it longer.
She gets BTS 270 and through a spinal tap into her spinal fluid, and she gets it under general anesthesia every 2 weeks.
Marion, since she's gone on the drug, she has learned to walk. She, in fact, even ran yesterday, which we were very excited about.
Okay, now get mommy. You did it. Just get worried.
It's a huge change. She's walking. She started doing that after her 5th or 6th treatment. She's running. She could climb stairs holding one hand.
Now, step down. Oh, you did it with one finger. Okay, now we're done with that.
She's just blossoms. My husband says, someone turn the light switch on. And I feel like we see who she's meant to be without the disease. And I hope desperately that we could hold on to that.
Now to see some of these children that they're able to walk when children couldn't, they are talking better, that their cognitive skills are better, it gives us hope.
It's the goal of my career, so it's tremendously important.
Where's Tom? Look up at it. Look up there. Good.
Cyclodextrin-based drugs are now the main treatment for Niemann-Pick type C. Addie and Cassie Hempel were the first in the U.S. to receive it, but by that time, the disease had taken hold.
The girls are now 14 years old. We had thought that the longest they might expect to have lived would have been around age 10.
We believe, unquestionably believe, that cyclodextrin has slowed down the progression of the disease. It's extended their lives. It's given us more time with them.
We're gonna take it day by day, and every extra day with them is a blessing.
great.
We're extremely hopeful, thankful for everybody who paved the way before us. It has given us a new lease on life. Haley goes to school. She does the choir, concerts, Special Olympics.
In first place, Haley Kujayan.
Haley can do anything, and I'm gonna make sure she does.
Mommy, you can't see me? I can see you very close. See your beautiful eyes.
When our children were diagnosed, our goal was to save our children. So it is a legacy to our children that we continue the work, but it's also a passion to make sure that no other family, no other child ever experiences the effects of this devastating, devastating disease.
I think that the hope is that there's research being done for more treatments to work in conjunction with this, and to see all the doctors and scientists and the other families who have joined together to tackle this and say our kids are not going to die. Hello. Hello. I think that this generation right now represents the kids that could beat the unbeatable.
Oh, bravo! That is wonderful.
Experts believe the cure for NPC will likely come in the form of a drug cocktail with cyclodextrin as its first ingredient. Researchers continue to study this miraculous sugar compound. They believe cyclodextrin may be key in the fight against several other diseases, including heart disease, HIV, and even Alzheimer's. Thanks for watching. I'm BD Wong. Good night.